The starship New Dawn moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its white hull shined under the light of distant stars. Inside the ship, Dr. Yuna Kim stood near the observation window and watched as the massive space station grew larger and larger. Nexus Prime, the place where humanity would meet the galaxy for the first time. Yuna took a deep breath. She had spent 20 years learning alien languages, 20 years preparing for this moment, and now it was finally here. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to stay calm. Behind her, the door opened. Captain Minho Baek walked in, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. He was a tall man, with kind eyes and a serious face. "We arrive in 1 hour," he said. "Are you ready?" Yuna turned to face him. "I have to be ready. The whole world is watching. The whole galaxy is watching." Minho nodded. He understood the weight she carried. Humanity had discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago. They had explored nearby stars, built colonies on distant moons, and dreamed of meeting other intelligent life. Now that dream was becoming real. "Just remember," Minho said quietly, "we come in peace. That is our greatest strength." The New Dawn docked at Nexus Prime 2 hours later. The station was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships of every shape and size floated around it like fish around a reef. Some were long and thin, others were round like balls. A few looked like nothing Yuna had ever imagined. She led her team through the docking tunnel and into the station. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Aliens of all kinds walked past them. Some had 4 arms, some had no arms at all. Some floated instead of walking. Yuna tried not to stare, but it was impossible. They were taken to a great hall where the Galactic Accord held its meetings. 47 species sat in a circle, their representatives watching the humans with curious eyes. At the center stood Emissary Velthos, a tall creature with silver skin and 3 eyes that never blinked. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Velthos said. His voice was smooth like water. "You have traveled far to stand before us. What do you bring?" Yuna stepped forward. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. "We bring gifts," she said. "Medicine that can heal wounds in seconds. Music and art from every culture on our world. Technology that can clean poisoned water and grow food in dead soil." She paused and looked around the room. "But most of all, we bring friendship. We want to learn from you. We want to share with you. We want to be part of this great family of stars." The hall was silent for a long moment. Then Velthos smiled, though the smile did not reach his 3 eyes. "How kind," he said. "How very kind." The meeting lasted for many hours. Yuna answered hundreds of questions. She showed videos of Earth's oceans and mountains. She played recordings of human music. She explained how humans had learned to stop fighting each other and work together. The aliens seemed interested, but something felt wrong. Their questions were polite, but their eyes were cold. Later that night, Yuna sat alone in her quarters on the New Dawn. She was tired but could not sleep. The door chimed, and Minho entered with a small device in his hand. "You need to hear this," he said. His face was pale. He placed the device on the table and pressed a button. A voice filled the room, speaking in an alien language that Yuna understood perfectly. It was Velthos, talking to someone else. "The humans are foolish," Velthos said in the recording. "They come with gifts like children bringing flowers to a king. They do not understand how the galaxy works." Another voice answered. It was deeper, colder. "The Dominion has already marked them. High Sovereign Korath himself reviewed their world. Blue oceans, green forests, 8 billion workers. They will make excellent servants." "When?" Velthos asked. "Soon. Let them think they have made friends. It will make the conquest easier." The recording ended. Yuna sat frozen, her blood turning to ice. "They're going to enslave us," she whispered. Far away, on Earth, Admiral Junho Park sat in his command center deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Screens covered every wall, showing images from spy satellites, listening posts, and secret agents scattered across the galaxy. He had heard the same recording 3 hours ago. General Hana Choi stood beside him, her arms crossed. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes like steel. She had fought in 3 wars and won them all. I warned them, Junho said quietly. I told the government this would happen. Every young species either joins the Dominion or dies. That is the pattern. That has always been the pattern. What do we do? Hana asked. Junho turned to face her. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. We continue the plan. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, the weapon platforms on every moon, the drone factories deep underground. He paused. We smile. We shake hands. We pretend to be weak. And we prepare for the war that is coming. And when it comes, Junho looked at the screen showing Earth, that beautiful blue marble floating in the darkness. When it comes, they will learn that humans are not sheep waiting to be taken. We offered peace. If they refuse it, they will see what comes next. On the other side of the galaxy, High Sovereign Korath sat on his throne made of black stone. He was massive, 3 meters tall, with skin like dark armor and eyes that glowed red. Around him stood his generals and advisors, the rulers of 5-star systems. On the screen before him played images of Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, green lands filled with billions of humans going about their tiny lives. So peaceful, so unaware. Korath smiled, showing teeth like knives. Another harvest world, he said. Send Warlord Draxus with 300 ships. Give the humans 6 months to enjoy their hope. He laughed, a sound like thunder. Then show them what happens to species that think they matter. His generals bowed and left to prepare the fleet. Korath watched the images of Earth a little longer. He had conquered 400 worlds. He had broken 1,000 species. Humans would be no different. They would kneel, or they would die. That was the way of the galaxy. That was the only way. But deep in his ancient heart, something stirred. A feeling he had not felt in centuries. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was doubt. He pushed it away and laughed again. Doubt was for the weak. And Korath was not weak. He was the strongest being in the galaxy. Soon, the humans would learn this truth. Soon, everyone would remember why the Dominion ruled the stars. 6 months passed like water through fingers. On Earth, people lived their lives. Children went to school. Families ate dinner together. Lovers walked under moonlight. They knew about the aliens now, about the great Galactic Accord and its many species. They believed that humanity had made friends among the stars. They did not know what was coming. Dr. Yuna Kim knew. She had not slept well since returning from Nexus Prime. Every night she heard that recording in her dreams. Every morning she woke up with fear, sitting heavy in her chest. But she kept smiling. She kept giving interviews about how wonderful the aliens were. She kept lying to protect the people she loved. Admiral Junho Park also knew. He had spent every day of those 6 months working. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt worked around the clock. Thousands of workers built ships in secret. Ships that did not appear on any official record. The weapon platforms on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn were finished. The drone factories underground had produced millions of killing machines, small and fast and utterly deadly. Everything was ready. And then, on a cold morning in October, they came. The Dominion fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships, each 1 kilometers long, each one bristling with weapons that could crack a planet in half. They moved slowly, confidently, because they had never lost a battle. They had never met a species that could challenge them. On every screen on Earth, the face of Warlord Draxus appeared. He was massive, almost as big as Korath himself, with scars covering his face like a map of violence. His voice boomed across the planet. People of Earth, he said, I am Warlord Draxus of the Dominion of 5 Suns. Your time of freedom has ended. You will now receive the terms of your surrender. The world went silent. 8 billion people stopped breathing. You will surrender all military ships and weapons. You will accept Dominion governors in every city. You will provide 30% of your population as labor tribute to serve in our mines and factories. Draxus smiled, and it was the smile of a predator. If you refuse, we will burn your cities. We will poison your oceans. We will kill every living thing on your world. You have 1 day to decide. The transmission ended. Panic exploded across Earth. People screamed in the streets. Governments held emergency meetings. Military leaders looked at their forces and felt despair. Their best ships were toys compared to the Dominion fleet. Their weapons were sticks against giants. In Seoul, the World Council gathered in a bunker deep underground. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and admirals sat around a long table, their faces pale with fear. "We have to surrender," one leader said. "We cannot fight them. Look at those ships. We would be destroyed in hours." "He's right," another agreed. "If we fight, billions will die. If we surrender, at least some of us will survive." Admiral Junho stood at the end of the table, his hands clasped behind his back. He had said nothing for an hour. Now he cleared his throat, and the room fell silent. "Survive as what?" he asked quietly. "Slaves? Cattle? We have all seen what happens to species that surrender to the Dominion. They work in mines until they die. Their children are taken and sold. Their culture is erased. Their hope is destroyed." He looked around the room. "Is that the survival you want? What choice do we have?" someone demanded. Junho smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We have a choice. We have always had a choice. You just didn't know about it." He pressed a button on the table. The screens on the walls changed, showing images that made the leaders gasp. Ships hidden in asteroids, hundreds of them, sleek and deadly, weapon platforms built into moons, factories producing armies of drones, defense networks that covered the entire solar system like an invisible web. "For 50 years, we have been preparing," Junho said. "Not because we wanted war, but because we knew this day might come. We hoped it wouldn't. We prayed for peace, but hope and prayer are not strategies." He looked at each leader in turn. The Dominion has never lost because they have never faced an enemy who was ready for them. "We are ready." The room erupted in arguments. Some called him crazy, others called him a hero. In the end, they voted. It was close, but the result was clear. Humanity would not surrender. 1 hour later, Dr. Yuna stood before a camera. Her message would be broadcast to the Dominion fleet and to every species in the galaxy. She had written it herself. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was strong. "People of the Dominion," she began. "I am Dr. Yuna Kim, speaking for all of humanity. 6 months ago, I came to Nexus Prime with gifts and friendship. I believed we could build something beautiful together. I was wrong about you, but not about us." She paused and took a breath. "You see our kindness as weakness. You see our hope as foolishness. You think that because we offered peace, we cannot make war." Her eyes hardened. "You are wrong. We offered you our hand in friendship. You tried to put chains on it. So hear me now, Warlord Draxus. Hear me, High Sovereign Korath. Hear me, every species watching this message." Her voice rose, filling with cold fire. "Withdraw your ships. Return to your space. Leave our solar system and never come back. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. If you come 1 kilometer closer to our home, you will learn what humans are truly capable of. You will learn why we survived when 100 other species on our world went extinct. You will learn what happens when you threaten our families, our children, our future." She leaned closer to the camera. "We offered peace. You refused it. Now you will see what comes next." The transmission ended. On the Dominion flagship, Warlord Draxus stared at the screen where the human woman's face had been. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he began to laugh. It was a deep, ugly laugh that echoed through the ship. "Did you hear that?" he asked his officers. "The humans think they can fight us. The humans think they can win." He laughed harder. "They have 100 ships. We have 300. They have existed for 10,000 years. We have ruled the galaxy for 100,000. They are insects pretending to be predators." He stood and pointed at the distant dot of light that was Earth. "Forward, all ships. Let us teach these insects what fear means." The Dominion fleet began to move. On Earth, Admiral Junho watched the enemy ships advance on his screen. Beside him stood General Hana, Captain Minho, and Lieutenant Taehyun, his best tactical officer. They were calm, They were ready. They're coming, Taehyun said. Good, Junho replied. Hana walked to a console covered with buttons and switches. Her finger hovered over a large red button. Should I wake them up? She asked. Junho nodded slowly. Wake them all up. Hana pressed the button. Across the solar system, on moons and asteroids and hidden stations, lights began to turn on. Machines that had slept for years started to hum. Weapons that no alien had ever seen powered up for the first time. Drones by the millions received their orders and prepared to launch. Humanity's true fleet awakened from its long slumber. Hana watched the screens fill with green lights, thousands of them, then millions. They have no idea, she whispered. They have absolutely no idea what they've awakened. Outside, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen when the wolves of Earth finally showed their teeth. The Dominion fleet moved through space like a wall of death. 300 warships flew in perfect formation, their weapons charged, their crews confident. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds. They had broken thousands of fleets. This would be no different. Warlord Draxus stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars pass by on the main screen. His officers worked quietly around him, preparing for a battle that they believed would last less than an hour. How long until we reach the humans' outer planets? Draxus asked. 3 hours, Warlord, an officer replied. We will pass Neptune's moons shortly. Draxus nodded. He had studied the human defenses. 100 small ships, a few orbital stations, some ground-based missiles. Nothing that could scratch his fleet. This would be a slaughter, not a battle. He was still thinking this when Neptune's moons exploded. Not the moons themselves, but what was hidden inside them. Massive doors that had been invisible moments ago blew open on 6 different moons at once. Behind those doors were weapon platforms the size of cities, railguns that could fire metal at 1/10 the speed of light. The first volley hit the Dominion fleet before anyone could react. 20 ships died in the first second. They didn't explode gracefully. They were torn apart, ripped into pieces by projectiles moving so fast they could punch through any armor. Metal and fire and bodies scattered across space in a cloud of destruction. What is happening? Draxus screamed. Return fire. Return fire. His ships tried to fight back, but they couldn't find their targets. The weapon platforms were hidden behind electronic shields that made them invisible to sensors. The Dominion ships fired blindly, hitting nothing but empty space. The second volley came. 30 more ships died. Retreat, Draxus commanded. Fall back and regroup, but retreating was exactly what the humans wanted. As the Dominion fleet turned to run, they flew directly into Captain Minho's trap. His ship, the Silent Dawn, led a squadron of 50 stealth vessels that had been waiting in the darkness. They appeared from nowhere, like ghosts rising from shadows, and opened fire. Human ships were smaller than Dominion ships, but they were faster and smarter. They didn't try to fight head-on. They struck weak points. Engines, weapon systems, communication arrays. They crippled ships instead of destroying them, leaving them floating helplessly in space. Lieutenant Taehyun coordinated the attack from Earth, watching everything on his tactical display. He had studied Dominion battle tactics for years. He knew how they fought, how they thought, how they panicked. And they were panicking now. Squadron 3, hit their left flank, Taehyun ordered. Squadron 7, target the supply ships. Don't let them regroup. Minho's voice came through the radio. They're trying to form a defensive circle. Should we back off? No, Taehyun replied. That's when we release the swarm. Deep in the asteroid belt, doors opened on 1,000 hidden stations. What came out looked like a cloud of metal insects, millions of small drones, each no bigger than a dog. They had no pilots, no fear, and no mercy. They poured toward the Dominion fleet like a silver river. Draxus watched the swarm approach on his screen. His face had gone pale. He had never seen anything like this. The Dominion used drones too, but not like this. Not millions of them, not drones that moved together like one giant organism. All ships, focus fire on the drone swarm, he ordered. His ships tried. They really tried. Lasers and missiles and plasma bursts filled space with light. Thousands of drones were destroyed, but there were millions more. And they kept coming. They crawled over Dominion ships like ants over a fallen animal. They found weak spots and burned through hulls. They crawled inside and destroyed everything they touched. One by one, Dominion ships went dark. Some exploded. Others simply stopped moving. Killed from the inside, Draxus realized he was losing. Not just the battle, but everything. His fleet, his reputation, maybe his life. He made a desperate decision. All remaining ships, maximum speed toward Earth. We will burn their planet before we die. 47 ships broke from the chaos and flew toward the blue world in the distance. They had taken heavy damage, but they still had weapons. They could still hurt humanity. Admiral Junho watched them come. He stood in his command center on Earth, surrounded by screens showing every part of the battle. His face was calm. He had expected this. General Hana, he said, activate the orbital defense network. Hana smiled. It was not a nice smile. With pleasure, around Earth, satellites that had looked like communication devices revealed their true nature. Hidden armor plates slid open, showing weapons that humanity had never used before. Particle beams that could cut through any metal, gravity wells that could crush ships like paper, things that bent the rules of space itself. The first Dominion ship to reach Mars orbit simply disappeared. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a ball of white light that faded into nothing. The second and third ships tried to dodge. They couldn't. Beams of pure energy cut them in half. The fourth ship's crew saw what was happening and tried to surrender. They broadcasted on every frequency, begging for mercy, but there was no one to hear them. The defense network was automatic. It did not accept surrenders. Ship after ship died as they tried to reach Earth. The humans watched from below, looking up at the sky where brief flashes of light marked the death of their enemies. In the end, only 23 Dominion ships escaped. They ran faster than they had ever run before, jumping to faster than light speed the moment they were clear of the battle. They left behind 277 destroyed ships, millions of dead soldiers, and one captured warlord. Warlord Draxus's flagship had been disabled by drones, not destroyed. Captain Minho personally led the team that boarded it. They found Draxus on his bridge, surrounded by dead officers, holding a weapon in his shaking hands. Surrender, Minho said calmly. It's over. Draxus looked at the human standing before him. This small, soft creature who should have been a slave. This insect who had somehow destroyed the greatest fleet in the galaxy. How? Draxus whispered. How did you do this? Minho didn't answer. He just raised his weapon and waited. Draxus dropped his gun. He had no choice. For the first time in his long life, he was not the predator. He was the prey. On Earth, Admiral Junho stood before a camera. His message would be broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Every species would hear it. Every ruler would see it. People of the Dominion, he began. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your warlord has been captured. You came to our home with 300 ships and threats of slavery. You leave with 23 ships and the knowledge of what humanity can do. He paused, letting his words sink in. We did not want this war. We came to the galaxy with open hands and open hearts. We offered peace, trade, friendship. You answered with chains and death. So remember this day. Remember what happened when you threatened our children. Remember what happened when you tried to make us kneel. His voice grew cold as winter. We offered peace. You refused it. This is what comes next. And this is only the beginning. In the council chambers of the Galactic Accord, Emissary Velthos watched the message with all three of his eyes wide open. Around him, representatives of 47 species sat in stunned silence. The Dominion had never lost a battle. In 100,000 years of conquest, they had never been defeated, until today, until humans. Velthos realized that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in 1,000 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. True, deep, primal fear. Because if humans could do this to the Dominion, what could they do to everyone else? What had the galaxy awakened? The news of the Battle of Souls spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every species, every world, Every ruler heard what had happened. The mighty Dominion, undefeated for 100,000 years, had been crushed by a species that was considered young and weak. 300 ships sent, 23 returned, a warlord captured like a common criminal. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy held its breath and wondered, what would happen next? On Earth, the answer to that question was being decided in a room deep underground. Admiral Junho sat at a table with General Hana, Captain Minho, Lieutenant Taehyun, and Dr. Yuna. They were tired but awake, running on coffee and determination. We have two choices, Junho said. We can stay behind our defenses and wait. Let the Dominion lick its wounds and come back with a bigger fleet. Or we can take the fight to them. End this threat forever. If we stay defensive, they will just try again, Taehyun said. They have thousands more ships, hundreds of conquered worlds producing weapons and soldiers. Time is on their side. Hana nodded. We hurt them badly, but we didn't kill them. A wounded animal is the most dangerous kind. They'll come back stronger and smarter, so we go on the offensive, Minho said. Hit them before they can recover. Yuna, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. There's a third option, something bigger than just military victory. Everyone looked at her. The Dominion rules through fear. Conquered species don't fight back because they think it's impossible to win. We just proved it's possible. If we show them that freedom is real, that the Dominion can be beaten, they might rise up themselves. Junho leaned back in his chair. You want to start a revolution? I want to end slavery, Yuna replied. Across the entire Dominion. Billions of beings living in chains, working in mines, dying in factories. We can't just think about our own safety. We have to think about them too. The room was silent for a moment. Then Junho smiled. The first real smile anyone had seen on his face in months. Then we do both, he said. We attack Dominion military targets, and we liberate their slave worlds. We show the galaxy that humanity fights not just for itself, but for everyone who dreams of freedom. The vote was unanimous. 2 weeks later, the first expeditionary fleet launched from Earth. 150 ships, the finest humanity had ever built. Crewed by volunteers who knew they might never come home. Admiral Junho commanded from the flagship New Hope. Captain Minho led the stealth squadron. Lieutenant Taehyun coordinated tactics, and Dr. Yuna prepared a message for the stars. Before they left, Yuna stood before a camera one more time. Her broadcast reached every slave world in Dominion space, transmitted on frequencies that the Dominion couldn't block. My name is Yuna Kim, she said. I speak for the people of Earth. Months ago, we offered peace to the galaxy, and we were answered with threats of slavery. So we fought back. We destroyed the fleet they sent to conquer us. We captured their warlord. And now we're coming for you. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was gentle. Not to conquer, never to conquer. We're coming to set you free. Earth remembers what it's like to be free. We remember what it's like to look at the sky and know that no one owns us. And we believe you deserve to feel that too. Hold on. Have hope. We're coming. The message spread like wildfire. In mines on dark worlds, slaves whispered to each other about the humans. In factories where workers died by the thousands, beings who had given up hope began to dream again. On 100 worlds, resistance movements that had been sleeping for centuries started to wake up. The humans were coming. The first expeditionary fleet struck like lightning. Their first target was a military base on the moon of a gas giant, a place where the Dominion built warships. Minho's stealth ships disabled the defense platforms while the main fleet smashed the shipyards. They didn't kill workers, only soldiers. They didn't destroy homes, only weapons. When the battle was over, Junho broadcast to the surviving Dominion forces. Leave. Go back to your masters. Tell them what happened here. Tell them we're coming for every base, every shipyard, every weapon. Tell them the war has just begun. They left. And they told. The second target was a slave world called Kethros. 2 billion beings worked in mines there, digging precious metals for the Dominion. They had never known anything but chains. Their parents had been slaves. Their grandparents had been slaves. Freedom was just a word in old stories. When human ships appeared in their sky, The slaves thought it was just another Dominion fleet coming to take more of them away. They hid in their tunnels and waited for the worst. But then the human soldiers landed. They wore armor, but their faces were visible through their helmets. And they were smiling. "You're free," the soldier said. "The Dominion is broken. You're free." At first, no one believed them. How could they believe? But then the soldiers opened the food crates they had brought. Medicine for the sick. Water that was clean for the first time in anyone's memory. Blankets and clothes and things that slaves were never allowed to have. A child, thin and dirty, approached one of the soldiers. She looked up at the tall human with eyes that had never seen kindness from anyone with power. "Who are you?" she asked. The soldier knelt down so she could look into his eyes. "We're humans," he said. "We're from a planet called Earth. We came a very long way to find you." "Why?" The soldier smiled. "Because everyone deserves to be free." The child didn't understand. Not fully. But she felt something she had never felt before. It was warm and strange and wonderful. And she didn't know that it was called hope. Word of Kithros spread faster than any fleet could fly. Humans had freed an entire world. Not conquered it, freed it. They had asked for nothing in return. They had simply broken the chains and walked away. On a dozen worlds, slaves who had heard Yuna's message began to rise up. They fought their guards with mining tools and bare hands. Most failed. But some succeeded, and every success made others braver. High Sovereign Korath watched all of this from his throne on Korath Prime. His face was calm, but his claws were digging into the armrests of his chair hard enough to leave marks. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have ruled for 100,000 years. We have crushed every rebellion. How are these humans doing this?" His advisors had no answer. They were as confused as he was. Korath stood and walked to the window of his throne room. Outside, his capital city stretched to the horizon, a monument to Dominion power. But for the first time, that power felt uncertain. "Send a message to the Galactic Accord," he commanded. "Demand that they help us stop the humans. Remind them that if the Dominion falls, they will be next." Emissary Velthos received the message in his chambers on Nexus Prime. He read it twice, then set it aside. Help the Dominion? The same Dominion that had threatened the Accord for millennia? The same Dominion that everyone secretly hated and feared? No, the Accord would do nothing. They would watch and wait and see what the humans did next. And if the Dominion fell, well, perhaps that wouldn't be such a bad thing. Velthos looked out at the stars and wondered what kind of galaxy was being born. Back on Earth, Admiral Junho received reports from the front lines. 12 military bases destroyed, 4 slave worlds liberated. The Dominion was pulling back, trying to consolidate its forces. Their empire was cracking. "It's working," Taehyun said. "They're scared." For the first time ever, they're actually scared. Junho nodded, but his face was serious. "This is just the beginning. Korath still has thousands of ships, hundreds of worlds. If we want to end this, we have to go to the source." "Korath Prime," Hana said. "The heart of the Dominion." "Yes." Junho looked at his team. "We're going to finish what they started. We're going to show the galaxy that no one, no matter how powerful, can enslave innocent beings and go unpunished. We're going to remind the universe why you should never threaten humanity." He turned to the star map showing Korath Prime, that dark world where an ancient tyrant sat on his stolen throne. "We're going to bring them down." 1 year had passed since the humans first offered peace to the galaxy. 1 year since the Dominion had laughed at them and sent a fleet to enslave their world. In that year, everything had changed. The Dominion's empire was falling apart. 30 worlds had been liberated. 50 more had risen up in rebellion. The slaves who had been silent for millennia were now fighting back with weapons smuggled in by human ships. Military bases that had stood for thousands of years were nothing but burning ruins. And now, the human fleet hung in space around Korath Prime itself. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of the New Hope, looking at the dark world on his view screen. Korath Prime was massive, 3 times the size of Earth, with black oceans and gray continents. The sky was always full of clouds, thick and heavy, as if the planet itself was hiding from the light. This was where High Sovereign Korath ruled. This was the heart of the Dominion. And today, it would fall. How many ships do they have? Junho asked. Lieutenant Taehyun checked his readings. 400 warships in orbit. Ground defenses covering every continent. And something else. He frowned. There's a massive energy signature underground. We don't know what it is. Probably a trap, General Hana said. Korath knows he can't win a normal battle. He'll try something desperate. Junho nodded. He had expected this. Begin the operation. Captain Minho, take your squadron and disable their orbital defenses. Taehyun, coordinate the main assault. Hana, prepare the landing forces. He paused, and find out what that energy signature is. The Battle of Korath Prime began with fire in the sky. Minho's stealth ships struck first, appearing from nowhere to destroy defense satellites and communication stations. The Dominion fleet scrambled to respond, but human ships were faster and smarter. They had learned from every battle, adapted to every tactic. The main human fleet advanced in perfect formation. Railguns fired, missiles launched. Drone swarms poured from carriers like angry hornets. The Dominion fought back hard, harder than anywhere else, because they were defending their home. But it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough anymore. Ship by ship, the Dominion fleet fell. Some surrendered. Some fled. Many died. On the surface, High Sovereign Korath watched the battle on a screen in his throne room. His generals were panicking, shouting orders and running around like frightened animals. But Korath was calm. Too calm. He had a plan. Deep beneath the palace, in a chamber that had been sealed for 50,000 years, sat a weapon from another age. The Worldbreaker. It had been built by the first Dominion rulers, beings who had died long before Korath was born. It had the power to destroy planets, to crack worlds in half with a single beam of energy. Korath had hoped he would never need to use it, but hope was for the weak. If I cannot rule Earth, he whispered to himself, then Earth will not exist. He entered the codes that would activate the Worldbreaker. It would take 1 hour to charge. Then a beam of pure destruction would leap across the stars and turn that blue planet into dust. 8 billion humans would die. The species that had dared to challenge him would cease to exist. Korath smiled. Even if he lost today, he would have his revenge. But Lieutenant Taehyun was watching. Human intelligence had discovered references to the Worldbreaker months ago, in captured Dominion files. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they knew it was dangerous. Taehyun had been tracking energy signatures across Dominion space ever since. When the Worldbreaker began to charge, Taehyun saw it immediately. "Admiral," he said urgently, "that underground signature is powering up. It's aimed at Earth. I think it's some kind of planet-killing weapon." Junho didn't hesitate. "Minho, can your team reach the surface?" "Already on our way," Minho replied. "But we'll need time to find it and disable it. You have 40 minutes. That's when the fleet will break through their defenses." Minho's shuttle cut through the atmosphere like a falling star. He led 20 soldiers, the best Earth had. They landed near the palace and fought their way inside, killing guards and smashing through locked doors. Taehyun guided them from orbit, reading the energy signatures and showing them where to go. Down they went, deeper and deeper underground, through corridors that no one had walked in centuries. The air grew cold, the lights grew dim, and then they found it. The Worldbreaker was enormous, a machine the size of a stadium, humming with power that made their teeth hurt. At its center, a crystal as big as a house glowed with terrible light. Cables and tubes connected it to the planet itself, drawing power from Korath Prime's core. "We have to destroy it," Minho said. "If we destroy it wrong, it might explode." One of his soldiers warned. "Could crack the whole planet. Better this planet than Earth." Minho studied the machine for a moment. Then he saw what he needed. A control panel, still blinking with lights. Everyone set charges on the primary cables. "I'll try to shut it down manually first." His team moved quickly. They had trained for moments like this. As they worked, Minho approached the control panel and began trying every override code that human intelligence had discovered. None of them worked. The Worldbreaker continued to charge. 30 minutes left. 25. 20. Then Minho noticed something. A secondary panel, hidden behind the main one. He pulled it open and found a simple switch, protected by a glass case. Emergency shutdown, manual. Korath had been so confident that no enemy would ever reach this room. He had never imagined that someone might actually try to turn his weapon off by hand. Minho broke the glass and pulled the switch. The world breaker went silent. The crystal's glow faded. The terrible humming stopped. "It's done," Minho reported. "The weapon is offline." In his throne room, Korath heard the news through his dying communication system. The weapon had failed. His revenge had been stolen. And now, outside his window, human ships were landing. Soldiers were pouring out, fighting the last defenders. It was over. Dr. Yuna walked through the doors of the throne room with an escort of armed soldiers. She had asked to be here for this moment. She had earned it. Korath sat on his throne, refusing to stand, refusing to show weakness even now. His guards were dead. His generals had fled. He was alone. "High Sovereign Korath," Yuna said. "By order of the United Earth Government and the Free Coalition of Liberated Worlds, you are under arrest. You will face trial for crimes against sentient beings, the slavery, murder, and torture of billions across hundreds of worlds." Korath laughed. It was a bitter, empty sound. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything? The strong rule and the weak serve. That is the law of the universe. Someone else will rise to take my place. Someone always does." Yuna walked closer until she stood directly before his throne. She was small compared to him, soft and fragile, but her eyes held no fear. "You're wrong," she said quietly. "The law of the universe is not that the strong rule the weak. The law of the universe is that everything changes. Empires fall, tyrants die, and beings who were once slaves become free." She leaned closer. "We offered you friendship. We offered you peace. You tried to put chains on us. You were wrong about humans, Korath. We don't forget what people do to us, and we never stop fighting for what's right." She stepped back and nodded to her soldiers. "Take him." They dragged the former ruler of the galaxy away like a common criminal. He did not struggle. He did not speak. For the first time in 100,000 years, a Korath was powerless. 3 months later, the galaxy gathered to witness something new. The Galactic Accord, once a weak coalition too afraid to challenge the Dominion, was being rebuilt. Not as a group of frightened species hiding from bullies, but as a true alliance of equals. And at its center stood humanity. Admiral Junho addressed the assembled representatives from 200 worlds. Many were species that the Dominion had once enslaved. They looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and hope. "Earth never wanted to rule the galaxy," Junho said. "We never wanted war or conquest or power. We wanted to explore, to learn, to share, to make friends among the stars." He paused. "We still want those things, but we learned something about ourselves in the past year. When our survival is threatened, when innocent beings are enslaved, when tyrants think they can do whatever they want because no one will stop them, humans don't run. Humans don't hide. Humans fight." He looked around the room at all the species watching him. "And we'll keep fighting, not for ourselves, but for everyone who deserves to be free. The Dominion is gone, but the galaxy still has problems. Poverty, disease, conflicts. We can solve them together. As partners, as friends, as family." The room burst into applause. Not polite, diplomatic clapping, but real cheering. Species that had been enemies for millennia stood together and celebrated. In the crowd, Dr. Yuna smiled. She thought about that day, 1 year ago, when she had arrived at Nexus Prime with gifts and hope. She had been naive then, believing that kindness alone could change the galaxy. She had been wrong. Kindness wasn't enough, but kindness backed by strength, by the willingness to fight for what was right, that could change everything. Captain Minho stood beside her, watching the celebration. "Do you think it will last?" he asked. "This peace? Maybe," Yuna replied. "Maybe not. The galaxy is big, and there are always beings who want power at any cost. But now they know something they didn't know before." "What's that?" Yuna looked up at the stars visible through the great windows of the assembly hall. Somewhere out there, was Earth, that small blue world that had refused to kneel. They know that humanity is watching, and they know what happens when you threaten the things we love. She smiled. We offered peace. We'll always offer peace first, but if peace is refused, they've seen what comes next. Minho nodded slowly. Do you think they'll remember? Yuna thought about the slaves who were now free, the tyrants who were now in chains, the galaxy that was now learning to hope again. They'll remember, she said. The galaxy will always remember the day humans proved that kindness and strength can exist in the same heart, that offering peace doesn't mean accepting slavery, that the smallest species, if pushed hard enough, can bring down the mightiest empire. She looked at the stars once more, and her smile grew wider. They'll remember, and that memory will keep the galaxy free for a very long time. Outside, the universe stretched on forever, full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And among those wonders, traveling to new stars and new worlds, were ships from Earth, still curious, still hopeful, still reaching out with open hands, but never, ever forgetting how to make a fist.